Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Jamie Love. I am the organizer of the Raw Food Worldwide Meetup, the founder of the Ageless Beauty Method, and the author of the Diary of a Recovering Food Addict, which is in the plant-based bundle this year. Today I'm going to be going live with someone very special. I've never actually had the opportunity or the pleasure of speaking with him or connecting with him before today, so this is going to be a really amazing call, and we are going live with Professor Spira. So he's the leading sought after expert on the mucusless diet healing system in the world. He's an author, health pioneer, jazz musician. So I'm so excited to talk with him today. Oh, let's see, let's get him on. Hello. Let's just give him a minute. Oh, there he is. Hello, everyone. Give me 1 second. Oh, there we go. Hey.
Hey, greetings. How you doing?
Wow. Wow. What a pleasure. I'm so excited to connect with you today.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me. You hear me
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, I hear you great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep.
Where are you calling from today?
So I am calling from my home base in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I have a camper van, so I'm often on the road all around the country. But for these few weeks, getting ready for the Woodstock Fruit Festival in a few weeks, I am here just getting things figured out here at the old homestead. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back on the road.
That's amazing. And you go between Ohio and Florida?
Yeah, I go, Ohio and Florida, but I'll be driving out to California for the Woodstock Fruit Festival. So I'm giving myself a couple weeks so I can take my time to get out there because it's in the middle of California. I think it's outside of Sacramento, like 100 miles outside of Sacramento. So so this will be my first total cross country trip in the van. I've been from Colorado back to Ohio, but yeah, this will be the first time all the way out there to California.
That's amazing. I'm in California now, here in LA, but I'm from Florida. Where do you usually go to in Florida?
Oh, I love a lot of places down there. So Orlando, Miami. I fell in love with Tallahassee. So I spend a lot of time there because it's not real, it's not super crowded. It's like clean, but it's not overgrown and with the big city kind of stuff. It's some beautiful parks. So I spend most of my time in. And there's so many different parks to choose from. I just kind of spend most of my time in a lot of the parks there.
I'm from like Palm Beach area, like Jupiter, Jensen Beach, Juno Beach area. I love that part. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing. Well,
yeah.
okay, I'm so excited. So you have 3 books in this plant-based bundle, and they're amazing. So they're based off of the mucusless diet healing system, and you kind of revised Arnold Ehret's work. So would you like to share a little bit about your health journey, how you first discovered his work?
Sure, yeah. So I used to be almost 310 pounds. So growing up, I was very, very sick all of the time, and I was constantly had ear infections, ear, nose, and throat issues. Would walk around with boxes of tissues, blowing my nose all the time, and I eventually got to be over 300. I think at the top I was like about 310 pounds. And at that time, I had just started college. And so I was a varsity football player in high school. So I went from where I was working out a lot for that, even despite how sick I was, I played a lot. I played a football game with bronchitis one time. It was the dumbest thing I ever did. But But I went from that reality to I'd met a good friend of mine named Brother Air, aka Willie Smart, that told me about the Mucousless diet healing system. And at the time, I was studying music at the College Conservatory of Music at University of Cincinnati, and it was music that really led me to this path. Because one of the things that Brother Air told me, which really stuck, was that your body is the true instrument, not my trombone, not a piano, not a trumpet, but your body is the instrument. And how is your instrument going to sound, and how are you going to be able to develop your instrument if you're totally obstructed and constipated, if your instrument's constipated? So most folks with a constipated body, they have no clue how much better whatever it is they're trying to do would be if they actually totally cleansed the vessel, cleaned out the instrument. And so I read this Mucousless diet healing system that Brother Air told me about. He'd been practicing it for over 20-something years at the time. And so I read this book and totally changed my life. 6 months after reading the book, I'd lost 100 pounds, overcame all of the issues I was having, daily migraine, headaches. I was on a CPAP unit. They had diagnosed me with sleep apnea, so I was on that oxygen mask at night nonsense. And within 6 months, it was all gone, totally changed. And I haven't looked back since, and that was 23 years ago.
Wow, wow. Okay, so I've been on and off raw vegan for the past 15 years, and fruitarianism, and I, like a lot of other people in the plant-based world, the raw vegan world, fruitarian world, like maybe we've never heard of, the mucusless diet healing system. So what is it, and how does it differ from these other diets?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So on my logo of my of Mucus Free Life, my organization, I call it the original plant-based diet. At one time, I put the original vegan diet, but the reason that I can make that claim, and I have a whole article that backs it up, but essentially, if you look at the history of writings on from plant-based and veganism, vegetarianism, once upon a time, what today would be called, from a dietary standpoint, what today would be called vegan, used to be vegetarian. That the original definition of vegetarian was that. And in these organizations, they started that there was like two different sides, where there was these people that wanted to use the word vegetarian to include certain plant-based product or animal-based products, and then the folks that were like, no, why do we want to do that? That doesn't make any sense. So later, you have the creation of the word vegan and that kind of thing, and the animal rights dynamic comes into it. But before that, you had Professor Arnold Ehret, who wrote his Mucousless diet healing system, rational fasting, and a whole bunch of other writings from in the early 1900s, from around 1900 to 1922, and he had some sanitariums. Well, first, he himself was on his deathbed. He was declared incurable by a number of the so-called best doctors in Europe at the time in the late 1800s, and he came across this way of essentially healing himself through diet, fasting, and proper physical activity. So those are really the three pillars. If I was just to boil the Mucousless diet healing system down, you have diet, but not just some narrow-minded dietary approach, but a transitional system and a transitional mindset. So that's the body, and that's the diet. And we really do not deal with, and I guess one of the more controversial things with the Mucousless diet healing system, even within the plant-based and naturopathic realms, is that we do not believe in the nutrition theories as they are propagated throughout both sides of the aisle, meaning the meat-eating side and the plant-based side. Both of these sides try to adapt and adopt this nutritional theoretical framework that was based on the theories of meat eaters. and people that had no clue how the human body operates, that have no clue of natural healing, and to this day have no clue about natural healing. They can treat illness by messing around with biochemistry and things, but when it comes to permanently healing something, like permanently healing my sleep apnea or permanently healing my ear, nose, and throat issues and chronic bronchitis and that kind of stuff, that's where you're not going to get that over there in a lot of that kind of nutritional based thinking and in the meat based thinking. So Professor Arnold Ehret basically put this mucusless diet healing system, which really was the foundational standard. So for most people that are into whatever they're into, if they identify themselves as fruitarian or raw vegan or whatever, the core of all of that really goes back to Professor Arnold Ehret. There's really, you have people that he worked with, like a Benedict Luss, who created the first naturopathic school or university structure, but all roads lead back to Arnold Ehret. He invented the term intermittent fasting, but the definition of it, the original version of that concept, is very different from what's been co-opted in the past 10, 20 years. But in his rational fasting, that's like the cornerstone of so much of what people do to this day. But he's never been really credited properly. Most people don't, like you said, they don't know Professor Arnold Ehret as they should. They don't understand that lineage of naturopathy and naturopathic healing. There are people that do, and so if you're familiar with somebody like, say, Dr. Morse, who sells version of the mucusless diet healing system himself, and has over years talked about how Arnold Ehret really inspired him. He was particularly inspired by Arnold Ehret's sanitarium and healing of thousands of incurable people, and so that really inspired him. Somebody that people are familiar with, like Dr. Sebi. Arnold Ehret's work was the foundation of Dr. Sebi's stuff. A lot of his stuff is different from what we teach, and from what there's some things that he changed in terms of concept. But there's a video of him talking about how Professor Arnold Ehret and the mucusless diet healing system is the only thing that he's really subscribes to or is into. He said that Arnold Ehret, the only person that he really believed in this particular video. And we could just go down the list of the gurus that the David Wolfs and it's like all these different people that know about Arnold Ehret, wrote about Arnold Ehret, but they stopped short of promoting Arnold Ehret. Besides, like I said, Dr. Morris does talk about Arnold Ehret and sells books and stuff. But the thing that I would say, there's a number of things that's different, but one of the most important differences and thing that I try to really share with the world is the importance of the transition diet and transition diet methodology and mentality and mindset. Mm-hmm. And that is what gets people out of so much. What's funny is, so people, they get into a certain mindset of, okay, I want to eat nothing but fruit. I want to be 100% raw, or it's this sort of this narrow-mindedness of wanting to be 100% something and not really focusing on the importance of elimination, which is where we come from. It's literally, instead of nutrition, we are looking at food and how and what we do in our life, and how well does it cleanse the body and eliminate. The body's always cleaning itself. Every time you breathe, it's a cleansing process. But most people they're not thinking about it like that. And so they're like, okay, what do I need to add? That's the additive principle. I need to add protein. How much protein do I need to add? How many nutrients, that kind of stuff. What the transition diet methodology does is it looks at just where are you at right now? What are you eating? And then it's like, okay, here are all the foods that are pus or mucus forming. The foundation of all disease is pus and mucus forming foods. Wow. So we want to get away from them, but not all pus and mucus forming foods are created equally. So there's some that we can use for transitional purposes as we're enhancing and getting our diet together. And there's others that we want to get away from sooner than later. So the dairy products and the meat, as you could probably guess, that's the kind of stuff we want to get off of sooner than later. But even there is a transitional mechanism for people who are really, really addicted to these items, are having trouble getting off of them. There is a mechanical way to eat so that your body is cleansed and your mind is changed so that you simultaneously truly get off of these items. Is what I like to say is you want to permanently transform your physiology so it's impossible to go back. Because what I see here, and you've seen a lot too, I would imagine, I call it the hostage style vegan video.
Yeah, Diary of a Recovering Food Addict, because we're all addicted, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, I'll say one thing about transitioning over to raw food diet is, like you said, for me it was raw at all costs, right? I'm gonna cold turkey it overnight, and I'm gonna do whatever I have to do to stay raw, and that could include eating anything as long as it's raw. And when I first went raw 15 years ago, I was literally eating tons of dehydrated stuff, raw cheesecakes, and anything with maple syrup, because the cravings were so unbearable. But all I could think of was I need to stay raw, because that's the key. As long as it's raw, it's fine, right? So that just set me up for failure,
Right.
And I think you're onto something here with this transitional period. So tell me, well, you can finish what you were saying, but I would love to know more about the transitional diet and like what the end result is, and how long does this transitional period last?
So, and this is one of the paradigm pieces, is that I look at transition as it's really a lifelong process. So folks, they want it to be short, or they want it to be like, okay, well, what's the end result? The end result is is total freedom, physiological liberation.
It's the process of the self-discovery, really. That's like what you're learning about yourself through this whole process, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And keeping in mind, so one thing that we do is I get people to do an audit of the history of your stomach, but not just what you ate, but what your parents ate, your parents' parents. There's one of the books that's not in the bundle, but it's called Thus Speaketh the Stomach, that Professor Arnold Ehret created. And he gives voice to the stomach. And what you start to notice is, and see, some people would call this, genetics or things running in people's family. But what we do is you analyze the diets of your lineage. And that's going to put into perspective how fast you can transition. It's going to help to explain why you crave certain things, why your friend that maybe has a different lineage, why they're craving different foods than you, why they're maybe able to go faster on certain things physiologically than you are, or whatever, that this explains a lot of that. And so ultimately, and this is another one of these things that people, because this is so dynamic, it's simple yet dynamic, that folks get it twisted. So in the Mucousless diet, Arnold Ehret has this, what he calls the formula of life. Vitality equals power minus obstruction. What does that mean? That essentially means there's more obstruction in your body, the less vitality you're going to have. And when you have too much obstruction, ultimately the body, which is an air gas engine, comes to a standstill. So when I say air gas engine, what am I talking about? This whole time we've been talking, both of us have been breathing. We've been doing this cleansing process where we breathe. I haven't eaten anything. I haven't eaten anything today, but we're not eating right now. So that's not really our fuel. That's not our primary fuel source, is actually oxygen, the breathing process. Breathing in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide, and everything that happens internally in terms of the blood cleansing. The blood is cleaned every time we breathe. So then, okay, if the body's an air gas engine, why do we eat? We eat because we're we're filthy, first of all, because our ancestors started to eat in a way that we're not supposed to eat. So that's where you get into the fruitarian discussion. So our primary system of fuel and elimination is the breath. The secondary system is the digestive tract. So when people are like, well, we got to eat something, we got this digestive tract. Well, yeah, that developed because we were breaking rules. And if you eat the right foods, that is going to support the cleansing process, the natural cleansing process of your body. It supports the cleansing process of your breath. So when you eat fruit, which is what our body is designed to eat, is fruit. It's like, if we're not going to only breathe, then fruit is the next step of cleansing.
And do you think we even need food? Do you think that ultimately we're all just breatharians and that you know that's the ultimate freedom, or do you think that we're supposed to eat fruit?
I think that, I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think that, yeah, you can, at the highest levels, the human would, yeah, could just be on air. But this is where I never hear the people that talk like that. I never hear about them saying, because, like, say, for instance, where I'm at, I've been practicing diet for 23 years, and I don't eat every day. Oh, like already, you know, I eat every other day. Maybe I eat, or I'll have a fruit day, a liquid day, another fruit day, then fruit and vegetable day, you know, but over time. But you could get to a point where maybe you're just eating once a week. Now, I'm not recommending this to anybody, but just to go on a logical journey. Then you get to a point maybe eating once a month. My friend, Brother Air, I don't know anybody that's fast more than him, but he did he did a 49-day, what did he do? He did a really long dry fast. Again, I don't promote that, but he's been practicing the diet for almost 45 years. So the logical conclusion and practicing it vigorously. So the logical conclusion for him, in alignment with his goals, because that is a goal for him, is he wants to get to a point where he can subsist mostly on air.
So the cleaner the body, the easier it is to go without food, and the dirtier the body, the harder it is to fast.
Right, yeah. So, but what's important and why the transition diet methodology is so crucial is and the analysis of your stomach, to put things into perspective, is to understand what will you be capable of physiologically right now in this life under these circumstances. So instead of the ideal, or focusing on the idealism of, okay, what's the highest level and how do I get there as fast as possible, you want to get grounded in the reality that your grandparents probably ate pus and mucus forming foods. You know, your great grandparents probably ate pus and mucus forming foods. You had hunters and gatherers, and you have all of this, and that, what I call physiological karma, all of that physiological karma you're going to have to work through. That is the necessity of the transition diet. That's why you have so many people that are like, okay, I'm going to eat nothing but fruit. And then months later, a couple years later, you get the confessional video, which I call, where it's like, I know, which always gets me, man. Where people get on here and they're just like, and so, yeah, I've just been around a long time, so I've just seen it over and over and over again.
I've been doing this a long time. I've gone years on fruitarian, you know, and then I've gone back to like cooked food and vegan junk foods and stuff. And then it's funny because like I hear like these like new fruitarians who like just learning about it, and they're like, I'm doing this forever. I'm only eating fruits, and I'm like, okay, like we'll see.
And that was one thing where, because when we first started promoting things really vigorously, was that 12 years ago or so, but I noticed that Dr. Morris's community was more open to hear what we had to say, and the vegans didn't want to really have anything to do with this, but Dr. Morris's folks were like, okay, what I was able to do was I've kind of planted these seeds, and because what Dr. Morris promotes is something that's really for like people that are very chronically ill. Like, you don't need to do that unless you're chronically ill. It's, in my opinion, be better to deal with the transition diet. But if you are chronically ill, that can help you. But what do you do after that? And that was where we would come in and say, well, here's a sustainable lifestyle where you don't have to go all the way back to eating the way that puts you into your disease condition. What you're able to do is, because also in terms of from cooked, so here's our thing with cooked, with the raw, because what's interesting too is how I'll hear raw people that identify themselves as raw fooders, but they'll explain what they eat and what they do, and I'm like, but I'm more raw than you, and I don't identify that way. What are we going? Or I'm more fruitarian than you, and I don't identify that way, which is very strange to me with a lot of these definitions. But that's why what I like to try to get people to understand: not all cooked food is created equal. Things like steamed or stewed kale, especially if you learn how to prepare food the right way and you combine it the right way. So I would never, and this is gets into some of the methodology of the mucus diet healing system, is you always combine, say if you're going to have a cooked mucus-free item, because there's a world of difference between a cooked mucus-free item that's combined properly with, say, a raw combination salad versus, say, a cooked whatever, some cooked chicken or some cooked because I've seen folks that try to put all cooked food together in this one, like cooked. I'm like, come on now. Steamed vegetables, sauteed vegetables. Like, there's a whole world of different levels of cooked mucus-free. And there's a term we use called mucus lean, which means that there's just a little bit of mucus in it. It's a little mucus that helps you, move forward. And that's essentially what you end up doing is you look at, okay, how much mucus, how much transitional mucus forming foods do I need? Here's the transitional mucus free foods that I like. You learn how to combine them together, and then you eat that way, and it's very sustainable. And you're kind of do an audit of yourself every once in a while where you're like, okay, how do I feel? But the satiation, how satisfied is my meal making me? Am I satisfied? Do I feel good? Do I have the energy? That kind of stuff. When you have ailments and latent illnesses that come to the surface that need to be addressed and healed, that's when now we have to have a conversation about deeper cleansing and fasting processes and that kind of stuff. But at the food level, you can be transitioning as long as you need to. And I have a video that I made years ago called What I Eat in a Day on the Mucus Diet Healing System. But it's like a 3.5-hour podcast episode. And the reason is because I grouped up different years, and I compared what I ate in years 1 through 3 to 4 through 5 or 4 through 7. And what I ate in years 1 through 5 is very different from what I ate in years 10 through 15. And 10 through 15 or 15 through 20 is different from all those before. So that's what I want to try to get people to understand is the evolution of your physiology and your diet, where you make permanent changes where there is no going back. There's no hostage video that I could make because I can't physically go back. Yeah. But if I hadn't taken the time that I did take to transition the way that I did so that the changes were permanent, then I guess I could still go eat something and it wouldn't kill me or make me sick. But that's why I'm saying because along with the body changing, that's where the mind also needs to do real changing and not just being stimulated. Because a lot of folks I find get stimulated with the raw message and it's like that. It's a form of stimulation as opposed to really getting settled and grounded and really, really becoming at one with your body, so you know how it works.
Right. And you're setting yourself up for long-term, lifetime success, not just a quick fix, weight loss.
Exactly.
Totally.
because what's interesting, and you'll observe this, and I think it's even happening now a bit. But so you had the old, like the 80-10-10 movements and the different kind of that 10 years ago, and all of a sudden somebody came forward and invented a raw till 4 concept. Raw till 4.
Which is an excuse to feed your food addiction, right?
Well, the way that I look at it and frame it is, it's an excuse to instead of just adopting the transition diet methodology, which essentially is what that's trying to do.
Right.
It's just a reframe, and so that's where I would always say, try to just read the Mucousless diet book and check out the transition methodology, because a lot of people are surprised at the things that we recommend that you can eat on the transition if you need it. If you don't need it, don't eat it. I'm not forcing anybody to eat, it's like you have to eat cooked or you have to eat this. It's like, no, that's where things get unique to your body, to your stomach's history. But you just want to be open and honest with yourself about where you are physiologically. And that just takes looking yourself in the mirror, getting in tune with yourself. And if you need, if you need a cooked vegetable, then get it. If you need, because again, once you know the mechanics of how to combine the things, then if the way I look at it is, if your body is physically capable of digesting a thing, you're not beyond it yet.
Right.
You're not better than that thing.
Eating like a cooked steamed kale is going to be a better option than eating a raw vegan cheesecake with, cashews and all types of things and maple syrup.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so what was I going to ask you? Okay. So what are some, if somebody wants to get started on this, what is the first thing that they should do? Like they open the bundle, they see your books. Is there one specific book they should start with? How do they get started to find out what the approved food list is and how to go about it?
Yeah. So the first thing I would read is the annotated Mucousless Diet Healing System. So that's in there. Read that and really focus in on because the way the book is laid out, the initial lessons are really the paradigm shifting and changing. It gives you the why are certain foods disease causing, the how does your body heal. It kind of breaks these things down, deals with a lot of misconceptions and false beliefs that people would have. But once you get to lessons 15, 16, 17, now you're getting into the transition diet lessons. So you really want to focus in on those and go into things with an open mind. Then you have the fasting lessons that follow that. And then at the end of the book, things get a little more philosophical. We get into women's health a bit, and there's some other more advanced topics toward the end. But read the Mucousless Diet Healing System in full. Then I would read the volume 1 of Spira Speaks, which is really a nice beginning companion to the Mucousless Diet Healing System. After you've read that, and then read Rational Fasting. So that would be the order that I'd recommend.
Okay, and for people who truly believe that they are already eating the healthiest possible diet, but they're still eating mucus-forming foods, like maybe even on a raw or fruitarian diet, does that mean that they have mucus or that they're not healthy?
A lot of that depends.
Maybe they're not even doing colon cleansing. Maybe they're fruitarian and they don't do any kind of enemas either.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. So I practice lemon juice and distilled water enemas as a part of the system, and that's super important, because most people, man, and you get somebody, and that's another thing. I mean, it is dealt with in the Mucousless Diet book to explain to people why it's so important to do that, because most people come to these, and even if you're fruitarian or whatever, 32 feet of impacted intestines. If you haven't ever cleansed, we're filthy. We've messed ourselves up eating in a way, and it's not gonna reverse overnight. And that's kind of the point of the transition. You're not going to reverse generations worth of improper eating and the body accumulating more and more waste. It's like you eat, accumulate all this waste, and when somebody has a child, it's like that waste is compacted down into the cellular system and the tissue system of that child. And that's why you can have, so you're not supposed to have children that are born with diseases and sick. That's not supposed to happen. But it's going to happen as long as you have parents that are obstructed and constipated upon the time of conception. This gets into all the deep topics of, because this is the real transformation of humanity, where everybody wants to talk about, well, how do you change humanity? And it's like, first and foremost, the most revolutionary thing you can do and the best thing you can do for world change is to learn how to control what you put into your body. And with that control, you're learning how to eat things that are more and more mucus-free foods.
It's the highest form of self-mastery, right? Having control over what you put over your body.
Yeah, that's it. So when you learn how to control what you put in your body, that extends out into the rest of your life in terms of your addictions and all this kind of stuff. And those things, and that's why I say once you get on the path of the mucusless diet, and you really commit to it, these things are going to transform things of your personality, and which is something I have to warn people, because I'm like, look, if you aren't ready to fundamentally transform who you are, then you might not be ready to heal, because this is the best way to heal, but it's going to demand that you do make certain changes to who you are at a core level or a fundamental level. And they're not things that you even have to try to do. You just have to accept them when they come up. And so I talk a lot about the different social challenges that people, because that was an area that I was really good at. I find I'm better than a lot of people in that area for a number of reasons. But that's where I try to warn people. It's like, hey, sometimes you're going to have to tell people no. When they say, hey, there's Christmas dinner, or there's Thanksgiving lunch, or whatever, you know, you got to kind of grow a backbone to be like, you know what, I'm going to pass this year. Or, you know, most people end up trying to do some kind of little hybrid thing where they're like, well, I'm going to go to the social event, but I'll bring my own food, and everybody has to deal with that themselves.
That does not always work.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And
and that's the funny thing is, because if you you feel like you could be strong enough, but willpower is not, alone is not going to be able to, keep you. Like sometimes, like you said, you have to, not put yourself in those triggering, places. There's tests, like, can you go to the movie theater and not eat anything if you're not hungry? Because I don't even believe in eating if we're not hungry, because otherwise, why are we eating? We're eating for entertainment. We're eating for pleasure. We're eating for all these other reasons other than nourishing our body. Can we go into a grocery store and just get the things that we need without getting kind of pulled in? And then, we have like a part of ourselves that wants to eat a certain way. It's like, I want to do this. I want to be healthy. I want to, cut this addiction. I want to get the mucus out of my body, whatever it is. And then once something, triggers in your brain, that willpower goes out the window, and you completely you forget that you're even following some kind of a system. You forget that you're even on some kind of a plan. And then, you can't make good decisions in that moment, So yeah, I definitely agree. You got to you have to be really aware of what triggers you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I have I made this years ago, but it's still relevant today. It's a course on the addiction to pus and mucus forming foods. And I use that same addiction methodology and 12-step methodology and the 5 or 7 steps of grief and all that. And I analyze that within the context of pus and mucus forming foods, because it's such a, it's like, what are the triggers? And for most people, the social things, going to a restaurant, being, just getting a call like, hey, come hang with us at the club, come out to here. It's like, and so everybody has to that's one of the, and that's where the communities help, where people plug in and kind of say, okay, here's a unique situation and I'm into, what do you recommend, or how have other people navigated this? Because that's the real, we can get into the mechanics, all that stuff can be written down and analyzed, but when it comes to the actual practice, which is what I say when people ask me, well, what are you? I'm a practitioner of the Mucousless diet healing system. So instead of giving myself a label like a ist, so I'm a raw foodist or veganist or whatever, it's like I practice the Mucousless diet healing system. What does it mean to practice something? So when you practice something, whether if you're practicing an instrument every day, you're picking up where you're left off and you're getting better gradually over time. And that's one of the reasons why I encourage people, instead of trying to have the mind of a nutritionist or some kind of fake scientific mindset, adopt a mindset of an artist. And the foundation of an artistic mindset is that of improving gradually over time. Because you're not going to be able to learn how to paint like Leonardo da Vinci in a weekend. That's not, even if they have a course that claims that you can do it, that's not real. It's not going to happen. But if you do it over the course of years, yeah. And so
I love the humility that you bring. I love the realism that you bring, and you're not just trying to sell some quick fix thing. Like you're like, it's raw, it's real, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. What the work that it really takes to change your life, to be healthy, to be vibrant. But it's like our life depends on it, because what we eat and it's going to affect the quality of our life and our experience. So it's worth it. For me, when I first started, I was never a big meat eater, but I grew up in an Italian American family. So I grew up eating bread and pasta and cheese. A lot of it, and then sugar, like junk food, lots of processed junk food. So now, after I was yo-yoing back and forth between plant-based and standard American diet, and then I finally got a grip after many years of yo-yoing back and forth on plant-based vegan. I never ever now go to animal products ever. I never have any dairy or anything like that. So, I look at like the ups and downs. It wasn't like a straight line. It was this crazy roller coaster ride, but I never gave up. Every time I fell off or I made a mistake or whatever it was that I did, the next day I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to shame myself. I'm going to start over and whatever. And looking back, now between 20 years ago, I would never touch any of the things. Like for me, like falling off of eating, what I would like to eat would be like having avocado toast. Like that's my downfall. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh God, I had avocado toast. It's the worst thing in the world. Because back 20 years ago, I was eating icing out of tubs. You know what I mean? So it's like it's so different. What you said, like what I eat in a day now compared to what I eat then, and how when I fall off now, it's not nearly as bad as how it was when I fell off 20 years ago. So it really does take time to put those habits in place. And when you do take 2 steps back, it's all part of the learning curve, and like you just have to figure out like, okay, what caused that? What triggered that? Was it the environment that I was in? Was it something emotional or something psychological, or was it something, I was keeping it in the house? We got to, take these things out of the house as well.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that's in that course I was talking about, but that series of videos is you assume relapse is going to happen. So that becomes part of your plan, is learning how to, there's something I call preemptive strike, where after you get the rhythm, sometimes you might know that there could be certain times a year, or if there's going to be certain triggers coming up. Maybe you have a time when you had a loved one passed away at a particular month, and emotionally that month is a little tough for you. There's a number of different things you can do, because you could see the more extreme thing is people try to fast through that stuff. Only if you're more advanced and beyond any doubt that you're going to have total control would I recommend that. The opposite of that is the preemptive strike, where before you even get to that place, eat some targeted mucus. You know, eat something you might not normally eat, but it's controlled.
Yes.
So you at no point did you lose control and just
Yeah.
like, oh, let me go eat this. It's like, no, I'm going to have this vegan patty or this whatever it is, or the vegan cheesecake
Because
or
I know
whatever.
my nervous system is not going to be able to handle what I'm going into, right?
Yeah. So it's just you kind of eat your way through whatever that was going to be, but you're also simultaneously, you keep the lemon juice, the still water enemas going. If you're doing that, you always try to control the combination mechanics. I call it just the mechanics of the diet. You want to maintain those. So even if you eat some transitional mucus forming foods, you're always going to have your raw combination salad. You're still watching your elimination and make sure things are eliminating well. And so you can eat your way through a rough patch, or just because, like I said too, because eventually you get to a point where your body will reject. It's like once it totally rejects a thing and you no longer crave it, or even if you crave it, you know that it's going to mess you up so much enough to where you don't do it. That's when you're done with it. You're liberated from it. So you mentioned toast. So well-toasted bread is something that's recommended early in somebody's transition. But as you get cleaner, you get to a point where I can't eat that anymore. So because I don't, it's like the reason that I don't eat it is not for some kind of moralistic thing or I'm advanced. And it's like, no, if I could eat it, I would. But because I transform my physiology to the extent that it is, I can't eat that. It's horrible. It's a horrible experience.
Well, you know, I actually went many, many years without any bread, none at all. So it's and I went through some really hard time in my life, like the past few years with some family issues and things. And it just was so intense. I was like, I need something. I just felt like I needed, and I every once in a while I started having some bread. So then that's where you don't know like the thing with for me is I just don't know what's going to trigger something, and I could be really, really good for a while, years at a time, and then something could happen, and it's fascinating, but it's not nearly as bad as what I would have done, what kind of food I would have run to or tried to totally.
And that's the art. That's why I call this the art of the transition, or the art of fasting. It's the art of practicing the mucus diet healing systems. You get to a point, because I'm not an advocate. I don't really like any real big ups and downs.
Oh, hate it.
That roller coaster thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like I keep it right in here. It's like, oh, that's good. It's like, but it's just kind of because what you end up doing is you raise your baseline. So my baseline is feeling great, regardless of what it's like. That's my baseline. So I just want to keep it here. I don't need any kind of, oh wow, that's amazing, to be amusement park kind of thing. I don't need that, but.
Well, I'm so excited to dive into your books and learn more about it. And for anybody else who wants to get Spira's books, you can get it in the plant-based bundle. You can get it you have a link in your bio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna when I get off of here, I'm gonna add the plant-based bundle link in a minute. Yeah.
Okay, so we both have the plant-based bundle, or you can message either one of us, and it has like $3,000 worth of books and courses from all your favorite plant-based creators, raw vegan creators, and there's recipes, there's stuff on addiction support, fasting, breath work, all kinds of things to help you along your journey. And it's only $50, and tomorrow's the last day. So I would get it today so you don't forget, because once this bundle's gone, you'll never have this assortment or this collection again. So you have everything, and there's no catch, only that you can get it within the 10 days. So definitely
Yeah, it's definitely it's a no-brainer. I mean, that was something that I would have loved to have this when I started practice. So even I was practicing the Mucousless diet, and I really focused in on the Mucousless diet. But what I do when I'm studying other things, it's even if I don't believe in some of the nutrition theories and that kind of stuff, uh, I can always adapt recipes. I like looking at what other type of recipes people are doing, and I can bring discernment to it. Whereas like certain things, I'm like, it's a little bit too many combinations and stuff. That's not going to eliminate well. But then there's other ideas. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I never tried that. Let me do that. And so yeah, it's a wealth of information all in one place. It's a no-brainer to click the link and go get the bundle.
Yeah, and if somebody wants to work with you more closely, obviously they can follow you here on Instagram, but how can they like get in touch with you or work with you or more closely?
Yeah, definitely. So I really encourage anybody to join our membership program. So I got the Mucus Free Life membership program. I do Q&A, so oftentimes when people have questions for me, then I just tell them to join the membership and jump on a Q&A call. So I do Q&A calls twice a month. We have accountability calls. There's all kinds of a whole bank of resources and videos and just hours and hundreds of hours almost of old coaching calls in banks and stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff in there, recipes, and because I don't have a whole lot of public recipe videos and that kind of stuff on YouTube, but we have a whole archive of recipe videos, menu plans, menu planning, training, all that kind of stuff. And we also have a 30-day transition diet boot camp program, which is perfect for people that are new to this information because there's daily accountability and daily interactivity and feedback within that particular program, where it's not just a bunch of information, but there's actual activities that you do on a day-by-day or week-by-week basis that internalizes a lot of these principles and mechanics that we've been talking about. And soon, in August, we're going to be releasing our Transition Diet 101 course, which will be 100% free, a free course that is very, very substantial. That totally covers the introduction to the transition diet, everything that we talked about today. So there's nothing like that that's out there yet. So I'm really excited to put
that will be inside the group. Is this group on Facebook, or how do they join the group?
So the group, which you click the link, so there is the link in the bio of that. You go to the membership section in my link tree. Then once you sign up, you're sent the login. So we use Circle as our platform, and so it's a Circle group. So which is just our group, our private group, so we can say what we want. We don't have censorship on there, unlike something like Facebook. So it's a total private group, and you log in, and we have the classroom section in there, and everything that you need is on that platform once you sign up and log in.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Spira, it has been such a pleasure and an honor getting to chat with you today. Is there anything else that you would like to share or leave with the audience before we close out?
Just the one thing that came to mind earlier when you were talking is to not be hard on yourself when you're transitioning. That's one thing that I find that I have to remind people where, it's not just because you had a relapse and you fell off or whatever, you don't have to beat yourself up because that doesn't help anything. You just, if anything, go and do an enema, lay down and just, and then contemplate, okay, how can I avoid that happening in the future? What can I do to reorganize, reshape my menu planning approach or my food approach or whatever, so that you can then make those changes. But at no time is it really helpful to this. I see people just cussing themselves out and being real hard or being depressed and all that kind of stuff. So I would just encourage people, don't be hard on yourself. But at the same time, it's also, for me, it's also important to push yourself in the direction of taking the action that is needed. that you need to do. So you can't just sit around and do nothing. It's like, no, when you go to the store, you have a decision to make, because everybody's going to go to the store soon. And that's really
the test,
where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
That's the test. It's like, what you going to do? It's produce section, or are you going to be running around the aisles to all the Frankenfood?
I'm sure if somebody is in your group, your circle group, if they're having a hard time, and they could reach out and message and, connect with other people for support.
Yeah, it's a total transformation in terms of having that kind of support. And that's the reason I created the group. And I know it's fashionable right now to have membership groups and that kind of stuff, but this is something that we started building years ago, way before it was the cool thing to do, because I understand how hard it is really for most people to deal with the social dynamic just in general, where you start to feel so isolated and by yourself and all that kind of stuff. And so here it's like, no, here's a place, we're all doing this, we're all on the same page, we know what this means when social dynamics and the parents start messing with you or this or that. It's like we know what that is, and it's so much easier to get through that when you have the community to plug into, the mentorship dynamic that is the people that have lived this lifestyle for a long time, and you get access to those people.
And it's so important too, because community, like you said, is so important, like the social aspect. But when you start to transition, change your diet, and maybe your old life starts to fall away, maybe you're not hanging out with the same people, you're not going to the same places, you're not doing the same things. It could start to feel a little isolated unless you surround yourself with other like-minded individuals.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important. So important to be, I say, plugged in. That's the term I use all the time, is you got to be plugged in. If you're plugged in, meaning just, body, mind, and spirit, emotionally, you have that support. When you're plugged in, that's how you can actually, and honestly, that's if there's no shortcuts, but if there was, that'd be the only shortcut that I could really give to people, is like, if you can get plugged in and you start to learn how to actually download the wisdom of the people that's around you, then that's the only way where you don't have to fall into the hole, because I already fell into it. And so I can tell you, hey, like, watch that hole, step around that. And so it definitely makes it a lot easier.
And I love the the no judgment aspect of your community, because it's not like raw above all else, or only fruit, or what I mean. So it kind of gives people that comfort and safety to transition without feeling shamed or judged if they can't compare themselves to how everybody else is like succeeding on a specific diet, that they can go at their own pace.
Exactly. Yeah, for me that's so important, and you're right. I don't see enough of that in our natural healing plant-based sphere. It's a lot of that's not there. And because I'll tell you, the place where I'm intense is I do like to be intense on the mental side of things when it comes to the belief systems and the paradigms and that kind of stuff. But even then, it's good where, because another dynamic of the community, it is good when you have people that can push you, but it's a healthy push. Just like if you're on if you ever play team sports, or you're in some kind of team where people are, where it's like a family, everybody's pushing each other to get better, but it's not negative. It's not any kind of this emotional draining kind of stuff. It's like, I just don't find that helpful at all. Just that whole kind of mentality of the moralities and being hard on people and that kind of stuff. I like now some people are surprised at that. If they look at my content, I like shock and all things when it comes to resetting your paradigm. So that's where I'm at, where some things that people think might be intense that I put out there, it's because I'm chipping away at a paradigm that I find to be totally useless. So these nutritional paradigms and because
Well, like you called the restaurant like a crack house in one of your books, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Like a crack house, yeah.
Yeah. So,
But I think it makes so much sense because it really is. You're like, you're not going there just to, to like feed your body or whatever. Like you're going there for the drug-like effect of, the bread basket and the appetizers and the, like how much can we eat and, like all you can eat buffets. And, it really is like this, you get like this drug-like effect when you eat certain foods.
yeah. And it's funny, I'm a musician and I'll play places over the years at festivals and all this stuff. And what I used to do is fast and then go into some, like I remember we went to the Chicago Food Festival. I mean, it's just the whole highest level of gluttony on the planet. And I'm fasting through that. But that ended up being a personal therapy. Where it's like, okay, I'm going to be in this environment and I'm fasting through it and I'm playing music here. So that's actually feeding me and stimulating me. But that's all part of each person's individual journey on this path where you're gonna, that's where things get interesting and everybody's story is a little different with that. But
I think that the thing is just to be aware and to start thinking about why we do things, right? Like just to start,
exactly.
We've been so indoctrinated by culture and society, and it's like we don't even question why we do things, Yeah,
and an example of that. So I never tell people that you have to believe what I believe. So I don't believe in the protein theory. I don't say that you have to not believe it because I don't believe it. But what I do challenge you to do is study the history of the theory, study Francois Magendie, study Mulder, people you maybe have never heard of before. You go through the history and you read the source material, which most people never do. Read the source, the origin of the calorie theory is a document written by what's his name, Alton. Yeah, go through all of that stuff. JC is correct me down. Yeah, JC, name all the different people down there. But if you go through those original documents and read it and realize how insane the theories are, the premise of the protein theory is based on torturing dogs.
Wow.
Francois Magendie was a psychopath that the government ended up shutting down. But he tortured dogs, but the result is our modern day protein theory. Came from that. And then they did it later in the 20s for the B12 theory. It's the basis of it is analyzing starved and tortured dogs, and they ultimately came, because anytime you have a theory, you have your hypothesis. It's like, okay, you observe something. So observation, hypothesis, and then test it, and then observe again. So they were doing that, but when you look at what they were doing it, where their reasoning came from, you kind of like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Like that's a horrible. It's just a fallacious foundational theory. And so the entire protein theory, in my opinion, to me, is useless and needs to be let go of. So what ends up happening is, and there's JC in the chat, he dropped a lot of the Francois Magendie and Mulder and all the guys, Wilbur Atwater, the calorie theory. But what you find is that these theories, in the same way that we look back at certain things as, like, I can't believe people used to believe in that, the bloodletting, or they were, all these different weird medical things that people did 500 years ago or whatever. That's how you would look at today's theoretical framework. We're not that far away from that. That's how wrong modern day nutrition theory is, because it's built on bad theories. And so I would encourage people to do that work, to go study that history. And if you study all those source materials and you still think it's a good theory, if you still think B12 makes sense to you, you still think that nutrients and that whole kind of thing is good, then cool. At least you're informed. You're not just blindly believing what a cartoon cereal mascot taught you when you were 2 years old, that the part of a balanced breakfast and get calcium from milk, and you got to have your protein every day or you're gonna fall off or whatever. It's like
all marketing. It's
all marketing. Exactly.
Yeah.
All marketing and propaganda.
So the B12, is there no such thing as a B12 deficiency?
Not to me, but again, that's controversial. That's controversial theory.
Right.
I've worked with a number of people because then you start getting into the actual real naturopathy and actually understanding true healing. So diseases aren't real, but symptoms are. But all these different disease names, somebody named things based on observations and they put a name on it. But because they don't have Arnold Ehret's methods of healing, they'll tell people, oh, you have to manage this for the rest of your life. You have to take these pills the rest of your life and manage this, or this is a genetic disorder or whatever. It's like all this nonsense. But
that's so funny, because like you see all these scientists and doctors like doing the test and trying to get to the bottom of things, and you're like, but you're ignoring like the most basic common sense thing ever, you know? It's just hilarious.
Yeah, because you can't 32 feet of impacted intestine. It's like you can't even, it's until you deal with that, there's nothing we can talk about. People got worms and decades-old feces stones, and we're so filthy until we deal with that first. And then we can start to look at, okay, what are the actual chronic ailments? So what I find is, so if people have certain symptoms that are, then a doctor attributes it. They do blood work, and which is all, again, that's more wrong, but they'll do blood work, and then they say, okay, the levels are low on such and such. And then you say, oh, well, I'm really fatigued. I have brain fog. I don't really feel good. Then they just put this 2 and 2 together, where they're looking at a fallacious, as again, built on bad theory, but the blood work along with your symptoms. And then they're saying, okay, well, you just need a B12 shot and you'll be good. You do stimulation. That doesn't heal absolutely nothing. So even if, whether it's placebo effects or it messes with your chemistry for a short period of time, then you feel good for a couple of days, but then you're fatigued again. Then it's like, well, what's the core of that? Most people, if you have any kind of chronic fatigue-like symptoms, those brain fog symptoms, sugar metabolism issues, because there's all kinds of scary words they've attributed to that, pancreatic issues and that kind of stuff, your diabetes and whatever. Endocrine system and rebuilding one's endocrine system, which is a more advanced topic that isn't necessarily in these books in particular, but totally rebuilding your endocrine system, those adrenal glands, fix those issues. Not a B12 shot, but healing your adrenals, and then all of a sudden, oh, I can eat fruit and I don't get brain fog. I can have a banana without getting brain fog or without getting tired and feeling, which is somebody that has sugar metabolism weaknesses. It's all tied to the endocrine system. But that's just one example of what I'm talking about, where people don't understand disease. They don't know what that really is. The foundation of human illness and true healing, because we're not taught that unless you're reading the Mucousless diet book or you're hanging out in our sphere. It causes a lot of confusion, and that's why I get so aggressive in terms of mindset, to kind of blow almost like a Zen Buddhist approach of just let's totally shake up your reality so that you can then start to rebuild it, rebuild your paradigm, because there's you don't have to believe the way you've been taught. And so once you get new information, and it's like, okay, well, let's take a look at this and see if it works better, if this paradigm works better. Because what the problem is and there's people, like in my book, I call it straddling the barbed wire fence, which is what a lot of people do. And so they'll kind of be like, well, and I've heard this in the raw vegan community, where it's like, well, I still got to supplement. So I better take my B12 supplement, but I want to be healthy and try to heal myself with something. And it's like you're straddling a fence. You're either all in over here on natural health and the body not being in this additive dynamic, or you're over here in the additive world. And so
I think that could also, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it could also, when people join these big groups, like these like free Facebook groups, like for, I don't know, vegan communities or raw food communities, everybody's putting their opinions and their 2 cents of this is good, this isn't good, this is healthy, this isn't good, you need to do this, you can't do this, you're not having enough of this, and everybody's just kind of putting their 2 cents in, and then people are just left so confused, they don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, because the paradox, and this is the main paradox of nutrition, and again, why I'm so kind of staunch attacker of it, is because you have a paradox where they claim that you need to eat certain foods and get certain amounts of different types of foods, but within their same system, some of those foods have been tied to cancer, strokes, heart attacks. Essentially, the same foods that they say that you're supposed to eat for health are the same foods that can kill you. That's a paradox. That's a huge problem. That we're the only ones that talk about it, but that's a really bad problem. And what Arnold Aaron essentially does with the mucousless diet healing system is solve that paradox, where there's actually is no paradox, because you don't need to eat for this accumulation effect. You eat to support the body's elimination. And once you make that shift, then the world opens up. Natural healing truly opens up, and the confusion goes away, because now it's based on your experience, where it's like, well, look, I haven't eaten whatever you're supposed to eat that they tell you're supposed to eat. I probably haven't eaten it in 23 years, and I can do my 4 miles a day and go to my gym, and I can do the stuff that, whatever. It's just that people like, oh, aren't you tired or this or that? It's like, no, I'm fine. But people wouldn't know they're fine unless they do it.
Yeah. Cool. Oh man, good stuff. And if somebody wants to, meet you in person, they could go to the Woodstock Fruit Festival in California.
Yeah.
When is that?
So that is August 9th through the 16th in California. And I'll also be adding the link to that, because I'm not sure if I should have added that already, but if I didn't, I'm going to add that in my link thing on Instagram. But yeah, that's coming up. Very
that's
quickly.
Probably an affiliate link, so get it from his link in his bio, so that Yeah,
if you get it from me and you use, I think my code is Prof Spira. When you check out, then you get $100 off, so it's tied to a discount. And so definitely, if you're able to come out there, I don't even know how many seats are left, because I know the event usually sells out. But yeah, I'm excited, because this is the first time that they have it in this location. So I'm gonna have my camper van, and it's basically on. I think it's on a big campsite kind of area, so people can have camper vans. There'll be some people with tents. The cabins might almost be sold out, but there is a cabin option that's more expensive. But yeah, between cabins, your own tent, camper van, or RV, it's going to be great. So
that sounds amazing.
I'm excited, and so definitely would love to meet you. Whoever can make it, come on down to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I love that. I wish I could go. One of these days I'll make it to one of those festivals.
Well, that's what I said over the years, because I've watched it from the very first one. Yeah. And I've always been like, I'm going to go. And so this year was the year where they reached out to me, and I thought we had a conversation. And it's like, all right, let's make this be the year.
Wow.
And so it's going to be fun. And a number of other folks that I really like are going to be there. And so be just panel discussions and great food, great fruit and produce, and just an opportunity to really plug in with a lot of different people that have been living this life type of
And
life
that
for a
I'm
long
sure an
time.
experience like that is enough to really change someone's paradigm of way of living of, normal society.
Yeah, because you get
Like
around
there's
folks
another
like,
way. Yeah, there's another way.
yeah, because then you can actually, you've seen the talking heads on YouTube. Now you're in person with the real people, like, oh, these are actually real people. And you can see that it's like, yeah, and we really do eat this way or we live this way. And it's not, it's not fake or made up or whatever. And so, because that's been interesting to see people that have watched me over the years, where, because in the early days, folks are always kind of waiting for you to fall on your face. And so they're just kind of like, yeah, he ain't going to be doing that for two. And then now, 23 years later, people are kind of like, got quiet about it. They're like, oh, wow, okay. And so, and then the other dynamic too is, as sooner or later, people start to get sick or they get diagnosed with something scary or whatever. And so that's another thing I like. The way I think about it is I'll plant seeds with loved ones and friends or whatever. I kind of plant those seeds, but there's no pressure, and I just wait. And then they get a cold and flu-like symptom, or they get a scary diagnosis, or they start to have real bad fatigue and constipation or whatever. And because I planted a seed, then they come back and they say, hey, what was it? What was that thing you were talking about? What was that diet? And I'm like, oh, here's the book again, because I probably gave them the book already, but here it is again. Read it now.
Yeah.
Because now they're open to it. And so time is another dynamic for this thing where, because I just look at everybody, even if you reject it today, in 10 years, you might be ready. You come back around to it. It was like, man, I thought you were crazy, but now I think you're on to something.
My kids, they probably think I'm crazy. But hopefully, 10 years from now, my kids might be like, oh, mom was onto something. Yeah.
Yeah. Because and with the young people, man, I mean, and that's been a tough thing to watch because, and you've probably seen it too, where young people are aging so quickly, so much faster on a physical level, not necessarily emotionally.
And the slouching too, just, the hunched over, and they're like lifeless. They're pale skin. They're just indoors all day. Like the whole thing is like, yeah.
It's really, but the only good news with that is, historically speaking, usually when you get something like that, then there is a countercultural movement. And that's really what I'm trying to do, is create a countercultural movement that is in alignment with, as if you go back to, there's the concepts of all those plant-based movements and the vegans, all that stuff. A lot of that does go back to the late 1800s. It was called the Back to Nature Renaissance. And Arnold Ehret ended up being a progenitor of that and became just a huge figure in Southern California. And in the early 1900s, and that cultivated and developed, but it was really co-opted in the 60s. So people that know about the hippie, and there's a book called, I have an article, and there's a book by Gordon, it's the history of the Back to Nature Renaissance movement. And what happened, it got co-opted in the 60s, and that's where all that drug stuff, because that was never a part of it. Where it was like the free sex and the drugs and that stuff was like, no, originally it was about, the vegetarian or the fruitarian and fasting and getting sunbathing in the nude, running around, earthing, and that was all the stuff. And then it got co-opted and people forgot about that core back to nature message. But what ends up happening with these kinds of things is we're due for another round of the countercultural dynamic. And so I think with young people, we're going to have maybe a generation that's a little lost, but I feel like there's going to be a generation that comes that they're going to get it. They're going to want something different because they're going with all this AI.
Yeah, I think I think their generation, even though where they're at right now, like just seeing the state of the world, and like you said, like with what's on you know, the internet and everything, I think they're going to see they're going to see things more clearly, and they may wake up faster and be like, wait, something's not right here. You know, it's something. Even my daughter, she's 15, and she said that she doesn't, you know, do what I do, but she's not vegetarian, but she doesn't eat meat really. Like, she maybe once in a while, you know, and she's kind of like, you know, waking up to like animal stuff. Like she said, I don't want to go to SeaWorld because they don't, you know, they treat the orcas not nice or something like that. So she's kind of becoming a little bit more aware because of what she sees on, you know, TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then she was talking about like Thanksgiving. She's like, I don't even understand Thanksgiving. It's just an excuse for everybody to just stuff their faces. And I was like, whoa, you know, like she kind of like came up with that all on her own. She's like seeing the correlation. So yeah, they might start to wake up, you know?
It's time, because I've long said that, and this is more of a long-term efforts, but if you can make in our case, like the Mucousless diet healing system, but just plant-based living, if you can make that be the thing that young people do to rebel, so they're rebelling against their parents, like, I'm not going to Thanksgiving this week, I'm not eating that animal flesh, like, I'm doing my enemas. And I've seen that. There's a handful of young people that have done that, but we need the mass movement of that, where you start to get, and people, parents will be so angry. They'll be like, oh, my kid, because I can picture that. They'll be like, oh, the kids, they're not coming to McDonald's with us anymore. They're not coming to Sunday brunch and all that kind of stuff.
It's so much ego, right? It's so much ego. Like, it's interesting because they're like, they don't tell their kid what they're eating, right? They don't say where meat comes, what even meat is. I didn't know what meat was. And then it's like, you know, you have to eat the way we eat because this is how we eat. This is our culture. These are our dishes and everything. And when you try to like kind of break away from that, it's like they really take it personally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the navigating the social challenges for people, because there's this idea of, oh, well, it's my culture. And, you know, I had which is funny because I get censored on YouTube over the years, and I had a video, a performance we did many years ago. It was one of the first videos I even put on YouTube, and they recently took it down saying, oh, this goes against community. I was like, it's been on here almost 15 years, but you take it down now.
Right.
With this little soft era. It was called Soul Food Killed More Black People Than the Ku Klux Klan. And it was really a song where soul food killed more black people than the Ku Klux Klan. So we take it, so it's not like this super negative, it's kind of it's our artistic musical thing. But the message was basically for obviously kind of directed at black folks. So it's like, look, you have no idea, you're eating essentially a slave-based diet. The diet that you're eating it's not a freedom diet.
Right.
And so just hanging on to this concept of soul food is to your detriment. It's like literally still holding on to slavery.
Wow.
In general, that mindset, that being somebody else controlling how you think, and that's what I see with the nutrition theories, all that stuff we talked about, where somebody is trying to control how you think. What I'm trying to do is challenge you and give you tools to study these things for yourself, and because once you know it and you experience it, then nobody can tell you anything. Because you actually know something. You don't have to, just get somebody's validation or permission. Because like I say in one of my webinars, if you're going to be waiting for the permission of doctors or nutritionists to heal yourself and eat properly, you're going to be waiting a very long time. And so you don't need permission to explore and learn what you need to learn to heal yourself and to save yourself and to break yourself out of your own whatever slavery you're experiencing, to break out of that.
I mean, it kind of makes me think about the teenagers, the kids and the teenagers, like even if they do become aware, they may not have the ability to buy their own food. You know what I mean? Like they might be, like I think about my kids, they live with my ex-husband and his wife, and they eat complete standard American diet, fast food a couple nights a week. And, you know, it's just there. It's in the house. All the junk food, all the processed food. Like even if they wanted to, it would be so hard for them because there's so many cookies and ice cream and everything in the house. Because even the parents eat it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think about all these kids who like, they're kind of stuck in these environments with the parents and they may not be able to break out until they're 18, you know? Or at least, get a job, you know, at least get a job.
Yeah, I mean, unless they start, because that was the thing, because I remember, and I don't know, like the school kids are still doing it. It's like stuff has kind of changed a lot. But, I mean, when I was 15, when I first started working, make my own money, buy my own stuff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, at that time, I didn't have a consciousness of food. But I actually bought a lot of my, because I was eating out all the time. So I did buy a lot of my own food with my own money as a teenager. And so
that's true.
So it's one of those where there's a will, there's a way. Most teenagers, what do they spend their money on? If they get a good little job or they're working a busser at a restaurant, whatever they're doing, they end up spending their money on whatever, just clothes,
stuffed animals, clothes, makeup.
Yeah, just all kinds of electronics. Like, oh, I need a new phone. It's like, does your phone still work? It's like, yeah, but it's not the new phone. It's like,
oh my God,
as opposed to, but for the future intelligent young person that is pushing against the grain, they start putting their own food into their own money into their own food, where everybody around them, and so that becomes the thing that they doing, that the family kind of looks at them strange, like, what are you always eating some other stuff? It's like, 'cause I used to. When I first started practicing diet and I was at school, I used to walk around the school and I would have a head of lettuce, like a big thing of romaine lettuce, have a bag of celery or a whole thing of celery. And I used to walk around just like the way that people eat chips walking around. I was just eating celery and carrots and that kind of stuff. And people would just give me the strangest look. And I dare somebody to say something, and a couple people had said something, and they'd be like, oh, that's just, I was like, so what's stranger? I'm eating some leaves of lettuce, or in a bag, you got this processed, salty, that's not even food. There's no food value in this bag.
Right.
And somehow you think that's normal, but me eating celery is weird.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Or the animal products too, because it's like they think eating like something, vegan is weird, but then eating a dead body on your plate is okay. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's
my prediction.
It's what we've normalized.
Exactly. It's exactly the conditioning. And what I think is going to happen is over time, there's going to be just a bigger and bigger divide in terms of the people that go get on this path and improve their diet, improve their life, start feeling better, all that kind of stuff. They're going to be over here, and the improper eating is just going to go the way of all of these YouTube, the mukbang people, the mukbang YouTubers, and just it's all this really, really over the top, horrible eating, and we're already seeing. Because every decade, it seems like people start to have heart attacks and strokes and cancer diagnoses earlier and earlier. So, 20 years ago when I started, people was like their 60s. With my friend Brother Air, when he was, because he was born in 1959, it was more people in their 60s and 70s. Then now it's more in the 50s, and I know people in their 40s now that are starting to get these kind of diagnoses and have these experiences, and you see people that are passing away and all kinds of stuff at such a young age, when it just does not have to be this way.
Right.
But it's only going to get worse, because one thing that people don't understand is that they have this theory of evolution. And so there's this baseline concept of, well, we're getting better, we're evolving. It's like, no, we're if you're eating a pus and mucus forming diet and having children, they're de-evolving. We're degenerating down.
The
And again, it's
DNA,
not,
the DNA
yeah,
is degenerating over time, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just everything is getting worse because it's like a carbon copy concept. If you take a paper and copy it, but then take the copy and copy it again, eventually it's going to get all muddied up and not look really good as opposed to that original. And that's essentially what what's happening right now because it is what we're eating. If we eat poorly and have children, and they're eating poorly, and then on top of that, we have this technological age where you have. Because I was thinking about this. I've been, I do my little walks and jogs and stuff in my neighborhood when I'm here back at the home base. And I was like, because sometimes I wonder if I just make this stuff up. Because sometimes older people, because there's like the older people syndrome where you're like, well, back in my day, and all that kind of stuff. So I try not to fall into that.
Right.
But I'm just walking. I'm like, hold on a second, because I grew up here, and when I was 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, I spent all day outside on my bike.
Yeah.
I had $4 in my pocket. I had a quarter. So people know, the older folks know what that quarter is. That's your emergency. If you have an emergency, you go to a payphone with a quarter.
Wow, yeah.
And I spent all day. I'm on my bike miles. And I'm overweight. And I'm considered, for my peers, I'm like the overweight guy. I even look at pictures of myself now and compare it to, I don't even know if I'd have been overweight in this modern day. When I was at the younger version of myself, the older version, yeah, I still would be. But I'm going around here, and I always like to go through the parks and, and I'm just like, there's nobody is outside.
No
What is
kids. I
going
never
on?
see kids anywhere. There's no kid. You go to the playground. Playgrounds are like empty a lot of the times.
Yeah.
After
In the
school,
middle after school, in the middle of the day, and a beautiful sunny day. And I'm like, I figured at least there's some kids riding a bike or doing something, and it's like, where's everybody at? It is weird.
It is so weird. Wait, do you share your age at all or no? Do you share?
Yeah, no, I'm 43.
You're 43? Okay, yeah. So yeah. I'm 41. So we grew up around the same time with the same same time period. My childhood was very much like yours.
Yeah. It's that's something I'm very thankful for. I mean, I'm thankful to be in that. We're both in that age group where we're young enough to have experienced life before the internet, before cell phones, like all that stuff. But we're also young enough to, when those things came in, our brain was young enough to take to it. So it's not so foreign. It's not like the generation older than us that's still kind of like fiddling around trying to figure out how to log in to an email and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm so thankful to have had that experience, because I feel like I know what from that type of freedom feels like.
We're the last generation that had no technology. We were there before internet, before computers, before cell phones. Heck, even before they had pagers, like when they came out with the pager, and that was like a big thing.
That was a big deal.
I got a purple one with it,
right.
I got my beeper codes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we're the last generation. We have a really unique perspective of what's happening in the world right now. And kids today will never see a world without technology, without, internet and cell phones and everything. It's just wild. And now today's kids will never see a world without artificial intelligence, which is even more wild, the fact that we even got to that point. But it's
like further and further down. But there's always a way out, and that's kind of what I like to work on. It's like there's always a way to be free. And because in our organization, for me, there's just like anything else, all this stuff are tools. So there's a smart way to use AI, and there's a slavish way, or to use AI.
100% agree. Yeah, because you can use it, and you have this PhD level like thinking partner, And you can do a lot, you know, or you can,
Exactly.
you know, sit there and use it as an AI girlfriend, boyfriend, and you're causing like you know, delusions in your mind. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
super problematic and sick. I'm gonna make a meme like that where it's like you know how I use AI to to build a business and this and that, automate things in my life, and then how they use AI, and there's this I don't know, it's like this cat with a wig that's dancing, and I'm like, see, this is what they're making. They're spending their time making this,
Right, I
but
know.
because my theory is if because I'm into like the AI agentic automations and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because that
And what
brings
I'm
us back our time. That actually
it's
gives
right
us some time
exactly
back. It's genius.
exactly
That's why I'm
yes
like, people
exactly
who are like, oh, anti-AI, I'm like, but you want to work forever? Like, you know, I mean, it's great to
yeah
have AI take over this so we could get back to being in nature,
yeah exactly
like growing our food or
growing on food
being with our family and actually spending time with our kids instead of, you know, like we don't have to be on the computer so much, you know?
exactly
Yeah.
yep that's exactly it.
I love that. I love that. Well, this has been like truly enlightening, so amazing. I love your energy. I feel so like inspired after having this conversation with you. And I know so many other people are going to feel really inspired after watching the replay. I'm going to, you know, I'll tag you or I'll add you as collaborator. And I hope that we get to do this again one day.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know. We could always you do YouTube as well.
Yeah. You have like you stream on YouTube? I don't have that.
Yeah. So I'm next month I'm going to be getting back into it. So there was a number of years. My YouTube channel's old. It's like 2006 that I had one of the first
Whoa.
YouTube channels. But but there's been times where I haven't done a lot of live streams lately, but I'm going to start doing them again in August. And so I have different people on different times, and I got the restream, and so I'm able to stream on YouTube and Facebook at the same time.
Yeah,
So
and I don't know if you want to do like a live while you're at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, it'd be cool to kind of talk about that dynamic or, you know, or
yeah,
I don't know, that might be cool.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much. It was like such a pleasure meeting you and getting to know you.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right, I guess I'll see you soon. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And don't forget to click the link in either our bio for the plant-based bundle. And if you want to join his community, click the link in his bio for that. And also use his code for the Woodstock Fruit Festival. All right,
Yep.
see you guys later. Bye.
All right, take care. Peace,
Bye.
love, and good.
Oh, yes.